Barbados is on course to giving up its shares in regional carrier LIAT. That's the story we're tracking in your Barbados Today Evening News Update this Tuesday, January 4. I'm Fernella Wedderburn. Thanks for joining us. It's been touted for weeks, but this evening the confirmation came. Prime Minister Mia Mottley told the nation that Barbados is ready to part with its majority shareholding in LIAT. Weeks ago, Antigua and Barbuda Prime Minister Gaston Brown disclosed that his government had offered to take up Barbados's shares in the regional carrier, but Mottley remained silent on the issue. This evening, she told Parliament that Barbados, the airline's single largest shareholder with 49.4% shares, cannot continue to support LIAT with its current model. As a result, Barbados will begin negotiations with the government of Antigua and Barbuda.
There is only so much that Barbados can responsibly do at this time, given our current circumstances and our current position on the journey which I referred to just now. Therefore, sir, notwithstanding our absolute commitment to regional air travel, and notwithstanding the fact, sir, and given in fact, the fact that the studies have recommended a different model and restructuring for LIAT, and given the inability of the government of Barbados to do for LIAT in the next 5 to 10 years what the government of Barbados did for LIAT in the last 5 to 10 years, when we moved significantly to assume major shareholder responsibilities, we have taken the determination and decision as a cabinet that it is time for us to step back, while at the same time allowing other governments to continue with their proposal to want to restructure LIAT in the way in which they have determined.
Mottley announced that Attorney General Dale Marshall will lead the negotiations, and she assured that Barbados, a strong supporter of interregional travel, is not turning its back on LIAT.
And will, one, maintain a minimum shareholding in LIAT should we reach an agreement with our sister government for them to take over our shareholding with respect to the negotiations. 2, that we will continue to provide a minimum revenue guarantee, or I shouldn't say continue, we will provide a minimum revenue guarantee on any route that is uncommercial, unprofitable, recognizing, however, that the majority of routes that Barbados is involved in is in fact profitable within LIAT. And it is against this background, Mr. Speaker, our commitment continues such that within the last few weeks the government of Barbados would have sent a further $1 million Barbados to LIAT, and would also have satisfied our commitments to the Caribbean Development Bank with respect to the refleeting of LIAT.
In other news, this Tuesday, a 9-member jury today found the veteran attorney Vonda Pyle guilty of theft, but not guilty of money laundering. Pyle was accused of stealing Barbados $191,416.39 belonging to her former client, Anstey King, between April 29, 2009 and October 26, 2010, and engaging in money laundering by disposing the amount. The 7-2 verdict came just before 3 p.m. after over 2 hours of deliberations by the jury. She has been remanded to HMP Dodds until July 16, pending sentence. Over at the headquarters of the Barbados Defense Force, Lieutenant Coast Guard David Harewood was today dismissed from the BDF. The ruling was handed down on the final day of his court-martial after a military panel found him guilty of 2 charges. He was accused of having knowledge of a threat to the life of a junior member and neglecting to inform his superiors of such a threat. He also faced the charge that between January 1, 2014 and September 30, 2018, he conducted unauthorized information gathering operations, conduct unbecoming of a commissioned officer in the BDF. Harewood has served in the BDF for 18 years. His attorney, Vincent Watson, plans to file an appeal in the Supreme Court. Labour and Social Partnership Minister Colin Jordan again signaled that government is working towards delivering its pledge to increase the minimum wage. Speaking in Parliament during debate on the Value-Added Tax Amendment Bill 2019, he said the Minimum Wages Board has been meeting on the matter. Jordan says government is expecting that businesses will also follow its lead, noting that it has been easing businesses by writing off taxes and waiving penalties.
We as a government demonstrates that fairness by writing off certain debts and waiving interest and penalties on others. We are saying to businesses and to employers in Barbados, we are prepared and we believe it is our responsibility to lead by example. And we will set the tone for fairness and for responsibility to those with whom we engage, our social partners. But we also have to be fair to our people.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To the region now, the Jamaica Police Federation is contemplating forcing the closure of some police stations due to their dilapidated state. We get more in this report from Television Jamaica.
An age-old problem which still needs to be addressed. The deplorable state of the police stations in which some of the island's policemen and women work. A few years ago, closure notices had to be issued by public health departments as the conditions became extreme. Such notices have been issued in the past on the Mount Salem and Barnett Street police stations in St. James. According to Police Federation Chairman Sergeant Petrero, the Federation is extremely concerned about the potential harm that may come to some of its members due to poor conditions at police stations. He is prepared to intervene.
We have police plans where Ministry of Health issue closure notice though, because it is rodent infested and so on. And these are some of the conditions. I know that there are a number of facilities that could easily meet the requirement for a closure notice from the Ministry of Health. And that is my intention. And certainly that's one of the approaches that I'll be taking. This time around, I'll be partnering with the Ministry of Health, and where we recognize that the condition of such that our members cannot continue to work in them, the Police Federation will go there physically and remove our members and call in the Ministry of Health. That is where we need to go.
On the international scene, the Trump administration today imposed heavy new restrictions on U.S. travel to Cuba, including a ban on cruises, in a further bid to pressure the island's communist government to reform and end its support for Venezuela's embattled president, Nicolas Maduro.
While U.S. citizens are technically barred from visiting Cuba, until now there were sizable loopholes, including educational travel and cruise ship excursions. But now that's going away. National Security Advisor John Bolton on Tuesday, hailing an end to the so-called veiled tourism to Cuba, tweeted, quote, "Cuba has continued to prop up the illegitimate Maduro regime in Venezuela and will be held responsible for this ongoing man-made crisis." The new policy is part of a broader move to reverse former President Barack Obama's push for renewed relations. It deals a bitter blow to Cuba's already crippled economy, as well as to the U.S. travel firms that had built up business with Havana.
That's a shame. That's a real shame.
It's just kind of sad that it affects so many people, the way the governments can't get along.
Cuba says more than 257,000 U.S. citizens visited this year between January and March.
And that's news. But for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM. I'm Fernella Wedderburn. Good evening.